everything working today?
What?
Is everything working today?
Hopefully. Hopefully. You never know, though, right?
What are we talking about today?
Oh, well, he's not coming till next week.
Who's he?
Brent, he got called into
Oh,
another
that's right.
thing.
All right. I have a story I can tell about a builder.
Here on 103.5 FM, The Sun, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Hey, when I'm not on the radio, I'm working with folks just like you to help them buy and sell homes. I'm proud to say that my team, the Baker Realty Group, has been helping people buy and sell homes in the greater Sun Prairie area for over 10 years. Information about buying and selling a home is available on my website, thebakerrealtygroup.com, on Facebook by searching the Baker Realty Group, or by calling 608-575-6731. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show with Bill Baker and Laura Stanfield. Brought to you by the Baker Realty Group.
Welcome to the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show with your host, Bill Baker.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show. I almost said good morning, Sun Prairie. Well, you know, you get confused once in a while, I guess. Hey, no, this is the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show, and glad to have you here. You are listening to 103.5 WLSP, The Sun, right here in beautiful Sun Prairie, and we are sitting in the Sun Prairie Media Center studios. We are underwritten by those wonderful folks at the Bank of Sun Prairie, the Baker Realty Group, and, of course, Wintrust Mortgage. Glad to be here. Now, this thing is that this show would not be what it is if we didn't have the queen of mortgages, the all-knowing, everything, Miss Laura Stanfield. Good morning.
Good morning.
How is you?
Good. How about you?
I'm good.
Wonderful.
Good. Yeah, thanks.
Good.
Thanks. Tell me
Into school.
what's going on in the world of mortgages.
Oh, you know, it's always interesting, isn't it?
Is it?
More, what's an adjective? Yo-ishness.
Yo-yo-ish?
Market interest rates popping up and down. So, yeah, not really any new news there, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. I would say just lock as soon as you can, and you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that you're done, and just don't look at it again. If you hear that interest rates go back down after you lock, maybe just see. Sometimes you can do like a float down if it's decreased by a certain amount. So you'd have to check with your lender on that, but it might be a possibility.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. One of the things that people have been wanting to, that have been sharing with me is how's inflation affecting home buying, home selling, interest rates and that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Originally our show was planned to talk about the housing study, but Brent Iceburner, the District 2 alder here in Sun Prairie, got called to court. So that, I understand that, and that, it takes priority. But I already had some stuff planned anyway, but I wanted to talk about the inflation, and we'll get to that. Something I want to do before we get started, a couple announcements. One that I am just absolutely tickled over, excited, doing backflips on. I think I did these Saturday night, I'm not sure. And if you haven't heard, if you haven't received the news, you're not in the know, well, now you are. Our little Sun Prairie Media Center radio station, 103.5 FM, was chosen as Station of the Year. Now, we're going to share that with a Milwaukee group. I know, but we are Station of the Year. That's all I'm going to say. I don't need to add that other station. I don't even know the name of them. But when you think of, and that's large market, by the way, large market. And people go, large market? Well, why are you large market? Well, because we're associated with Madison, and that would mean that we're going up against stations like WIBA and all the others. I mean, the ones that have paid disc jockeys or radio personalities, that have production staff, they have all the support materials. And here in this station, we have 4 paid individuals, and then you have about 85 to 95. Every time I tell the story, it gets bigger. And look, I'm hoping, getting a thumbs up from Rachel, I'm hoping, but she's not listening. That's okay. That's okay. 7-second delay. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4. No? Okay. And so we have that many volunteers that write, produce, and direct, and then provide the information in the shows that you listen to every day. A huge, huge congrats to Greg Bump, Sarah Mileski, Christine Bright, Mark Ganwa, Jamison Rabbit, Mike Powers, myself, and then of course the staff here, because we were all in the category of first, second, third, and Greg and Sarah took the Excellence Awards, or the #1 spot. And I just can't be, I'm like a proud papa right now. You know, we've been here so
exciting.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And our efforts help make this station what it is, and it's just so cool. But I'm going to say this: we couldn't do it if we didn't have the staff behind us, helping us and guiding us all the way. And so a huge shout out to everyone that's involved, all of our membership, all of our volunteers, a part of our radio station. Because of you, we are Station of the Year, and congrats on that. There's a huge event happening. Dolly Wagner. Got to get that name out 5 times. I told her I would. Because there's an event going on at the Cross House. It's called Germans Coming to America. And I want everybody to go down to see this. This is going to be one of the coolest things to hit Sun Prairie.
What is it?
Well, it's a display where you can learn the history and the journey of German immigrants that coming to Wisconsin. And you're going to see artifacts, you're going to see stories, you're going to meet people at the Cross House, and they've got special exhibits set up. They even got things for kids and all that. And Dolly Wagner asked me to get this out on the air to let people know about it, and I am tickled to do that. I can't wait. Dolly Wagner, you are a superstar, and thanks. Coming to America, our Germans Coming to America, and that starts May 10th, runs through the 28th. There are special times. Check with the Cross House. Check with the American, what is it? Sun Prairie Historical Society, or Genealogy, which those are great organizations. But yeah, there you have it.
That's nice.
I know, right? I love that. I mean, I'm Scott-Irish, but I know there's probably some German in me somewhere.
I'm German and Irish.
I have Saunders and Starks on my mother's side, and then I have on my father's side I have Onan and Herod and Baker.
Onan.
And I met
Nan.
O hyphen or
Apostrophe.
umlaut.
No, and umlaut, that's an apostrophe.
That's not apostrophe.
And umlaut is that like double dot.
No, that's
above.
not umlaut.
It is.
That's not what I'm saying it is.
Oh, fine. The
The-
dictionary according to Bill Baker.
Almonds.
Stop it.
Ah!
Oh my lord.
Oh.
How do you spell almond?
OLMOND.
Gosh. Wow, you weren't good at spelling bees, were you? Man.
Almond.
ALMOND. Pronounce it.
I hear it.
Electric company? Almond.
You're showing your age.
Maybe.
Actually, we're
but I
gonna
learned how to sound things out, so.
we're going to go back to 79 and 80 today. I can guarantee you that. But were you even born yet?
Oh, thank you. Unfortunately, I mean, yes. I was.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
No,
yeah, I was.
But Onan is Irish. It was Omer, O-M-E-R. Omer was what you called him was Omi, O-M-I-E, and he's my great-great-grandfather who I met and I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and myself. And but we've had 5 generations at one time.
That's a whole nother show, but I was just talking with somebody about that, but it's kind of sad when your parents and
Mhm.
grandparents
Mhm.
pass on or get to a stage where they can't really communicate well, and you have questions as you get older.
Right.
You don't think about when you're younger
Right.
to ask.
That's true.
So ask the questions while you have them.
Darn it.
Like, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about this relative or that relative, or what it was like to live in Germany. You know, whatever. Ask the questions now. because you might lose that opportunity.
That's true.
And I think they would love to share that information with you anyway.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
You know, my mom being gone, she was like the genealogist kind of side of the family, and there's the Saunders, Starks, Brown family, and I've lost touch with all of that, but it's you know, she was like the person to call and say, hey, who's this in this picture or whatever. But so we're talking about real estate today. We're going to talk about inflation and what's going on out there. And if you aren't, if you're not feeling the effects of inflation, then something else is wrong, because it is all around us right now. And we're sitting at an inflation rate of like 8.5%. And what's
It went down a tiny bit, didn't it?
No, a skosh maybe.
Maybe like a couple tenths of a percent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's really weird about this is that employment is strong, and usually those numbers don't do that. I mean, if you have high inflation, you have higher unemployment numbers, and it's not working that way. But what I want you to know is, even 8.5, it ain't the highest. So back in 79, 80, and 81, they were experiencing 14% per year of inflation during those years, and I remember that. I remember gas prices going from like 55 cents to 75 cents, and I remember when it hit $1, the gas pumps couldn't accommodate $1.
Oh, they weren't set up for that.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Huh.
That was kind of weird.
Before my time.
Right. So let's do this, Laura. Let's do this. How about, we're going to get to real estate, and this is good. You're going to like this. We're going to also talk to you about, I know the frustrations you're feeling out there with buying a house right now, okay? Especially if you are working with FHA or VA. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to see what we can do to maybe help you in a way of strengthening your offer, but also give you some guidelines to be prepared when you're in there, get it, in there, writing an offer. And it's not simple right now. It's not simple.
No.
So it's a bit of a challenge, and so we'll get to that. But so let's talk about inflation. If you have questions, you're welcome to call us at 608-825-0930. You can go to Facebook Live, if I can get it to work, and you can also leave us a message there. We're in studio. Be glad to respond to any of the questions you have. Charlie Andrews, good to see you. So there are no crazy questions. There are no questions out of bounds on this as it relates to inflation. So inflation, so let me do that. I even looked up the definition on this, Laura. So inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level in an economy. Inflation means an increase in the cost of living as the price of goods and services rise. So basically, inflation takes away your buying power, if you think about that. So what happens is this: you're out there and you're buying stuff and you're having a great time and you're buying more of it and more of it and more of it, and because of that, production costs are increasing, so your costs increase. It could be a supply side thing where you're buying so much there's very little of it, and when there's high demand and low supply, price increases. And so there's a lot of different categories that are really affecting this. What happens is a lot of times supply and demand kicks in and just that price goes up. You're feeling it right now at the gas station and definitely at the grocery if you eat.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Even haircuts, everything.
Right. Now the pandemic is part of this, and let me explain why it's part of this. Because if you remember, when we went into lockdown, everything stopped. So productions stopped, and it wasn't for like a week or 2 weeks. I mean, it was for months, right? And so what happened is all that production that was normally happening on a daily, weekly basis ceased to happen. And so then what happened is we started to come back out of the lockdown, and there wasn't enough supply. There wasn't enough gasoline. There wasn't enough food. There wasn't enough wheat. Things like that. I mean, everything had shut down. Also, during that time, if you remember, all the containers of stuff, let's call it stuff, because it could be wheat, it could be foods, it could be goods and services, it could be clothing,
Lumber costs,
oil, cars, microchips. All that happened, and so we had all that shipping sitting in ports that couldn't be unloaded because there was nobody to unload it because they hadn't come back to work yet, or they had decided to not come back to work. So that cost there increases because of the handling of the items and the scarcity again of the items. So that's the second thing. If you remember, new car sales, what happened? They stopped. Why'd they stop?
Microchips.
They couldn't get the freaking microchip to put into the car so they can sell them. So then those cars just, the cars kept coming in, the chips didn't catch up, and so they're sitting there with all of these new cars. And then what happened was, because the cars weren't being sold, used cars weren't being traded in, so now there's a shortage of used cars. Used cars prices go up because there's a shortage, but yet demand is still there.
Rental car companies even sold off a bunch of their cars.
I know. And then they charged a fortune. Some of that rental car, I mean, $100 a day? Give me a break.
There's some price gouging going on.
Yeah, there
that's
was.
For sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
But the food resources like our wheat, it couldn't enter the country. Wheat or soybeans or things like that. And the United States is the third largest producer of wheat. Why we're not number one? We should work on that. Get on Joe Biden about that.
Amber waves of grain. Right?
Right,
Isn't
exactly.
that in our anthem?
Right.
Anyway.
So now gas is back up. I mean, the demand of gas is going, crazy. Everybody wants to go out and drive and get out there and do things. And so now production costs are going up because they can't produce it fast enough. Now they're adding new production facilities, which will take some time to build and develop. But everything's slowing down, and your costs are getting higher. Plus, there's profit sharing, or profit taking, as you just talked about a couple minutes ago. And the one big one is oil. Oil. Saudi Arabia said, no, we're not making any more oil. No, we're just going to make it at this level. We're not going to send you any more oil than you're normally getting. So the supply side, again, the demand was high, supply was low, prices increased again. And that really kind of sucked. But from the homework I was doing on this, get this. This is kind of cool. If you take gas and food out of this whole equation and look at all of the other goods and services, inflation's only up about 0.5%. Like 0.5%.
Really?
Yep. And the Fed has a benchmark of 2% as a target year over year. So it's actually
So
not
it's
too
under the target.
right. And we're seeing things come down. Used car sales, our used car prices are dropping. So as cars start to pick up on all that, more cars are coming onto the market, and so you're seeing that happen. And
What
so,
about material costs like lumber and?
well, that goes along with the homes and that, because the supplies isn't there. Demand is high for new construction because you can't find an existing home.
Right.
So they're building as fast as they can, and they don't have enough supplies, or they don't have adequate supplies, along
I'm
with
just
labor.
surprised that food and gas take up that much
Uh-huh.
of. That's surprising.
I think it's amazing. So then the other part of this is interest rates. So the Federal Reserve increased interest rates 0.5 point. For 0.5 point. It went up 0.5 point. And they did that to slow how much you're spending. They want to slow how much you're buying. And to do that, that will control inflation. You just got to be really careful, because if you do too much, then you go into a recession. So the pendulum is swung really strong to one side right now. And I honestly think that I think, and I may be wrong, I hope I am, that interest rates will go up to 7%. By the end of the year. We'll see. We're going to figure that out.
We will see.
But it affects your car purchases, it affects your credit cards, it affects all those kind of term loans. So what that interest rate means, what?
You're talking the short term or the long term?
Short term.
Home equity lines.
Jump in here anytime,
I just did.
I'm glad, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Wow, you're feisty today.
Oh, I'm just
Feisty
saying,
little
I just
chick.
did. I just did.
Up to that.
Anyway, go ahead.
So the interest rates, so what happens is, and what that federal rate is all about is the interest rate that the Federal Reserve charges banks in order to borrow money. So if it's a 1%, then they're going to charge you 3%, 2%. They've got to make a profit on it. The banks have to make a profit. The lenders have to make a profit on it. So that Federal Reserve rate that you hear is the cost of money to borrow from them. Now, how's that affected us? Well, interest rates have a little bit of an effect on mortgages because it affects your ability and affordability to buy a home. It makes everything more expensive, and it's got to be a part of the consideration when you're buying a home. But mortgage rates are calculated based upon mortgage-backed securities. And right now what's happening is the federal government is dumping all of the notes that they bought over the last 5 years. Was it 5 years? Something like that.
Sounds about right.
And that's a lot. That's a lot. And so that's driving.
Incrementally.
Right. That's driving rates up in addition. So we're sitting anywhere from, I don't know, what, 5 to 5.5. You told me 5.5 the other day, probably back down to 5.2 today.
Yeah.
And so what's that mean to you folks? If you're listening to this going, well, he'd get to real estate and start talking about that because I'm bored with this stuff. Well,
I already took Econ 101, right? No, not everybody
Not
does,
everybody
obviously, because
does.
People don't know, they
Right.
don't understand what's going on
Right.
with this. It's a good preface to what's happening in the real estate world.
So what happens here, if you look at this and the way that the inflation, the interest rates, and what the federal government is doing to try and curb inflation, this is how it affected you. If you bought a house in January, you got a mortgage on a house that's $300,000, you put 20% down, your payment was around $1,230. Today, your payment is around $1,600. And so that extra $400 that you had is now going into your house instead of buying groceries, paying electric bills and gas bills and all that stuff. Or today, air conditioning.
Air conditioning, yes, exactly. Interest rates, I think, have gone up, what, a full 2%?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that does make a difference,
Sure.
but it depends on your loan amount. So
Right.
if you're wondering how it would impact you, you really need to just ask.
Right.
In your situation, what kind of a difference it would make.
Exactly. And here's the question everybody asks, right? Wow, did the slowdown start? Wow, is everything slowing down now? That's the question.
We go back to Econ 101,
Right.
Supply and demand. No.
Right, and so the mortgage rate increase really hasn't, in my world, affected sales. Now you might be able to feel it better than I have, because I'm at the tail end of it, it's to say.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a demand pick up.
I don't know if pick up necessarily, but it seems like more the issue is nice. It seems like more the issue is exhausted buyers.
Right.
So I have seen buyers exit the market,
Right.
but that's been going on the last few years.
Sure.
We've been in the seller's market for a really long time. This has just been intense.
Yeah.
You know, this market has been. So I totally get it. If you've got 15, 20, 30 offers in and you haven't got an accepted offer, maybe you're like, it's just not my thing.
No.
But
No.
I'm going to say what I always say, don't leave the market. Don't
No.
do it.
No.
If rates are going to go up, prices are going to go up.
Sure.
You're going to maybe smack yourself if you do. Just stay in tune to what's out there.
Stay in the market and buy the house. It may not be your dream house. Buy a house. Because what's about to happen, what's going to continue to happen,
Appreciate
is the appreciation, and it's part of that wealth building. And I know what you're saying. Well, I don't want to move twice. Well, I hear that. Okay, get over yourself and look at the financial
I'm never having a
reward.
baby again because it was so painful. But then you do. You forget about it and you do.
Well, you lady, that's nuts about you. You always forget about the pain.
It's the love. No, I didn't forget about the pain.
Well,
It's just
why would you do
worth
it? Pain
Because
is a
it's
reward?
Worth it. The beautiful human that comes out of it all is worth it.
No pain, no gain.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it. But how many, I mean, and I can tell a story about, like a builder story that I want to share with people. There's a young guy that I've helped. He's on his 4th house now. And no, he didn't start when he was in kindergarten, but he started really young, you know. So people say all the time, I'm never moving again. It's horrible. You do. You just do.
Mhm.
You know, you get better at it every time you do it, right? more efficient with your packing and moving.
You get rid of stuff. Trust me, I know.
It's a good chance to purge. It absolutely is. Yeah. So it's not that bad, and people do forget about it. And the people who are worried about the interest rates, well, one, you don't want to buy if you're not comfortable with your payment. You need to know what your payment is, and if you're okay with it. Hopefully, your income will continue to increase. Maybe there's things you can do with your other debts
Right.
that you can lower or
Oh, yeah.
eliminate. But also remember that you can always refinance. So
Yeah.
rates go up, they come down. When rates go down,
We refi.
you refi.
Yeah.
Or maybe your income continues to increase, you pay off other debts, you decide later on you want to do a 15 or a 20 year.
Sure.
And then you get a lower rate that way.
Sure. Now, what I think is going to happen, and I have not had this happen to me, knock on wood, is that it's going to be very important for you to have a really good realtor as your listing agent or your buyer agent right now. And I'm talking about really good quality, not the fresh out of the school and all that stuff. Because I believe, because of the increase in rates, increase in inflation, we're going to see a larger percentage of deals fall apart because of it. And folks, let me tell you something. Selling a house is easy. Getting it to closing is where the work really happens. And that's where Laura and I take over. That's where, actually it's more Laura than it is me. Because
If there's financing involved.
right, if there's financing involved, you've got to get that work done, and you have to really work on that. And I'm just concerned about it. And so you've got to hold a deal together. You have to hold it. And there's a whole group of reasons why a deal may fall apart. The thing that I want you to know is in Wisconsin, you cannot be forced to buy or sell a home. And it doesn't mean that there won't be consequences for what you're doing. Uh-oh. I'm always
I'm
worried.
just wondering why that isn't showing up on my thing.
What am I?
Go ahead.
That was from Guardians of the Galaxy.
It was.
Mhm.
I forgot where I was talking about now.
You said you can't be forced
Oh,
to
yeah.
buy
You
or sell.
in this state, you can't be forced to buy or sell a house. That doesn't mean there won't be ramifications. It doesn't mean that you won't.
You mean if you decide to change your mind after having a contract, a signed contract?
Correct. Now, here's the thing you need to remember, and please write this down, circle it, underline it, highlight it. Before you back out of a real estate transaction, don't go to your realtor, go to your attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Your attorney is the person that's going to guide you through that process, not the real estate agent. Most of us, 99.9% of us, are not attorneys, nor do we play attorneys. The state of Wisconsin has given us permission to practice a little bit of law as it relates to real estate and the completion and advising of forms and processes to real estate. But when you have a situation where you want to breach a contract, what are you doing?
It's kind of, it's like we have voyeurs. I don't understand.
Why are we being voided?
I don't know.
Folks, we're in the radio studio and everybody's coming by the glass. I feel like
They're popular today.
I'm like we're at the lions in the lion cage, and there are people walking around going, "Hey, I'm here, you know."
It's kind of bizarre.
It is bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to make a change in a real estate transaction like that, you should definitely consult your attorney first, and then include your real estate agent. But at the same time, don't start something that you can't finish. Ask the right questions. Don't be afraid to ask more questions, because I do know things change. Let me give you an idea. Divorce, death, two of the biggest ones that will change a transaction. And if you have a partner and you're divorcing, you can't buy a property. Your incomes won't match that. And they're not going to complete the transaction, so you have to let the other party know. If you have a spouse that dies, you have to share that information also. Sometimes if it's a single party and there's a death, the transaction is definitely over at that point. unless the family will allow it to continue. Because there's a little bit of thing called probate and it's a lot
All
of
kinds of things can happen.
Correct.
And yeah, you need to have professionals in your corner.
So by the way, folks that are out there and you're listening right now and you're selling a home, you're selling your home, okay? And let's say that your house is being built and you can't move into your new house until September. What I want you to do is I want you to close on your house right away and rent back from the people that are buying your house. Why would I say that, Laura?
Do you have an accepted offer yet?
You got an accepted offer, and they're going to be.
I mean, on your next home.
Oh yeah, we're building. We're building.
You're
building a house.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Yep. Why would I want somebody to do that?
You're done. You have it taken care of. You can negotiate the rest of it along the way.
Oh no, you're done because if something happens to the other party, it doesn't matter anymore. You've already got your cash. You're just paying rent now. Maybe you've negotiated free occupancy for $1 or something for that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the reason I'm telling you, and this I'm jumping ahead a little bit on this, but it just popped up, so I want to talk about it. We can go over it some more a little bit in a while. But I've had this happen to me. I've had a death and I've had a divorce, and the transaction was over.
In the middle of.
In the middle
like,
of.
didn't know it was coming. The death, obviously,
Right.
but the divorce, you didn't know it was coming?
Correct.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay.
And so it ended the transaction. But if you are the seller and you're buying and you closed the transaction on your home that you're selling right away, get it done, get it over with, get the cash in your pocket, rent from them if you can or something like that, you're safe.
Well, this is where you need to know what your options are. And you need to talk with people who have been around the block a time or two and they understand how to advise you about your options.
Correct. Most people will say, well, we'll close it in September.
Yep.
No.
Well, you need an agent that is protecting you and your best interest, and you don't know what can happen, what can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's, again, where experience comes into play. Hey, here's why I'm suggesting this, because I've seen this and that happen, and while it's not common, it could.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Experience wins over every time.
It should.
Every single time.
It should.
Hey, what's going on right now? If you look on any of the those fabulous websites we tell you to ignore called Zillow, Realtor.com, or Redfin, it's going to show that there are 61 houses available for sale. Actually, there's really 17 that are listed.
Wait a minute.
Well, wait.
61?
Yeah, 61, but they're not.
In Sun Prairie?
Yeah, but they're not.
Well, how is that so far off?
Because it's accepted offers. It says offer or active
That's a
show.
lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, but
Accepted offers.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But then if you look at just the actives, it says 17. Guess what? It's wrong.
That's wrong too?
There's only 10. 7 of those are new construction that haven't been built or won't be closing until June or July. And so those don't count. I'm sorry. Bzz, wrongo. Wrongo. So what I'm saying to you is don't rely on Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, or those. Talk to your agent, and I'm hoping that they can give you a more definitive. Now, this is City of Sun Prairie. This isn't Bristol. This isn't Town of Sun Prairie. I'm just talking about City of Sun Prairie. Right now, this month there have been 20 houses listed, 15 sold, and that is four less than last year time frame. Pricing is up 5.1% over last year to $389,210 on average. Here's the number you need to remember. Write this down, circle it, underline it, highlight it. Solds that are occurring are at 105.67%, so 106% of the asking price, or 6% over the asking price.
Yeah, that's more than it's been.
It is. 11 days on market. Now, here's what I want you to know about what's going on currently, and this is where I think a lot of, this is why you need to hire an agent that looks at stuff like this, okay? That a buyer's agent or a seller's agent. So, as of right now, we've had 14 sales in Sun Prairie.
In May?
15 actually. 15 in May, okay? Of that, sales are averaging $22,000 over the asking price, or 6.7% above. Larger dollars houses are asking larger dollars above asking are occurring in the lower price levels, like 179 to 254, where the numbers are 54,000, 30,000, 48,000. Little house over on Chicory Way that listed at 179.9 sold at 225, 45,000 above the asking. Something was wrong there. Why was it? I just don't. I know. I'm going to shoot myself, aren't I?
Hopefully
But
not.
so you're seeing these. I mean, over on Audley, Audley, Audley. They listed the house for 254.9, sold for 303. Now, what bothers me was that was an agent from outside of the area, but they may not have known the value in it. Sold price is 33.4 above the 2021 assessed value. It's 33% above. Last assessment was 2021. So, what do you think is going to happen next?
It says agent non-MLS.
Yeah.
Just meaning not our
Outside of the area,
MLS.
right? They were outside of the area.
Okay. Huh.
And then of the ones that are,
One-car garage.
I know, right? Of the ones that were sold, 79% of them had competing offers. So that's way up. That's almost up 30% over last year or last month. And so be aware of that you are going to be competing, most likely going to be competing with somebody on your offers. 21% of the offers, only 21% of the offers, only 21% were cash. Cash. The rest were conventional financing. What really bothers me is there's no FHA and no VA.
Here you go.
And I am really having a problem with that. Because I think there's some discrimination going on.
Thanks to Nick Conrad, though.
Oh yeah, we love Nick. We got one approved.
I thanked him for that yesterday.
You did?
And then the seller, yeah. It's just so rare and unusual that
You saw the seller, or you talked to Nick?
Nick,
Oh, you did?
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Awesome. What did he say?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was kind of like Nick's been in the business for how long?
And he is one of the great realtors in our city.
He's just a good guy, and he doesn't overcomplicate things. He knows what to look for
Uh-huh.
in these types of loan programs, and
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not worried about anything
Yeah.
other than what you had already mentioned. And I'm like, yep, Bill already talked about that. I don't see it come up. It doesn't mean it won't. Same conversation I had with you, but
Right.
he knows.
Sure.
So he's not worried about it, and he didn't talk the seller out of it. So that's, honestly, thank you is much needed and deserved.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I was so, when I see Nick Conrad's name on, so what happens, we have a client that we're working with, and we've been looking for properties, found one finally, put an offer in, it's FHA, and so we got it accepted. And what was exciting is when I get to look on that sheet and I can see the agent who's representing that seller, and you know immediately. And I'm hoping that when people see my listings like that, they do the same thing. And if not, I want to know about it so I can make sure that I represent it the same way that Nick does. But you got to talk about the good guys when they're out there doing this stuff.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to mention it.
Right.
Please don't, listing agents out there, please don't talk your sellers out of things unless you completely understand what you're talking about.
Right. So in this process, in this buying process, you're going to hear us talk a lot about this because, I mean, this is where it is. Listings, there's very few of them. In fact, if you're thinking of listing, call me. If you want to sell your house, call me. Let me tell you how much equity you got in your house, and then help you with that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to look at what we can do because right now, cash buyers are averaging 1.4 offers to secure an offer.
1.4.
1.4. So it's almost 2.
I wonder how many BA and FHA borrowers
I'll get to that.
are. Really, you have that?
7 offers. It's taking 7. It's like 7.3 offers for non-cash offers, conventional financing,
Conventional.
and the higher, and the FHA and VA are off the chart, like 10, 12 offers.
That almost seems low, sadly.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. So you might want to look at what other options you have.
Well, okay, if I'm an FHA buyer, what are my choices though, Laura? I mean, I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of, or...
Normally, FHA pre-approved buyers are in an FHA loan because they have to be.
What's
But
that mean?
It doesn't mean that they're not qualified to buy your house, right? If you're working with a lender who understands it and they're pre-approved, not pre-qualified, then they should be just as solid as any conventional buyer. Just, they need a loan program that fits, that's it.
Right.
So as long as their situation fits the guidelines, there doesn't need to be any other overthinking.
So it may be 3.5% down instead of 20% down.
Well, conventional buyers don't necessarily, they could be putting less down.
Right, so why...
Conventional buyers could do 3 or 0.
So tell people why FHA then. What is it about why people would have to go use an FHA? Is it because of credit?
It could be because of credit.
Credit levels?
Could credit score. It could be about credit score. It could be about your debt to income ratio.
Okay.
Maybe it's a little higher than what conventional allows. Maybe you had to file bankruptcy for a legit reason.
Medical?
Could be medical, could be divorce, could
Divorce.
be anything. And so there's a waiting period for conventional. If you have to file for bankruptcy, usually between 4 and 7 years you have to wait to get conventional financing. But maybe you filed bankruptcy 2 years ago. Well, you can qualify for FHA or VA where you cannot for conventional. But maybe you've done a lot of hard work and
Okay.
your credit score is rebounded. You don't have a lot of debt, so you're fine. It's just that waiting period prevents you from going with a conventional loan.
Okay. But it seems like real estate agents are freaking out. The
Yeah.
listing agents, maybe more inexperienced agents, are freaking out when they see FHA or VA.
Mhm. There's a lot of presumptions made, unfortunately, and we've talked about that before too. The whole the chipping paint could come up on government loan programs, missing CO detectors and missing hand railings or spindles on stairs.
Right. But as an agent though, a lot of times my hands are tied a little bit on what I can do or ask for, or in a way of helping them guide them through the process on here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just talking about appraisals. I mean, if I have somebody that is doing a lower down payment, they may not have the cash to actually...
That could be a lot of, listing agents conversations too. If it comes in low, then how does your borrower come up with the difference? Because we're not paying it. We don't have to.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's going to be, it's
Maybe
an interesting...
mom and dad, Brett,
Right.
maybe mom and dad are
Yeah.
willing to. I don't know if I mentioned this when we were talking about it before, but some have parents actually that are sitting on a ton of equity
Sure.
in their homes. They might already have home equity lines set up,
Mhm.
or they might take out a home equity line to help you get an accepted offer. Doesn't mean you go with mom and dad's home equity and cash, but it's just another strategy. It's just another possibility that might help you get an accepted offer, and you could still get your own financing.
Right.
But maybe mom and dad could help you show, or maybe they have an investment that they don't have to liquidate, that they could show that they could pay cash.
Well, okay. That could pay cash for that house.
Right.
Say that one more time, because I think that was really huge what you just said, and I think people need to hear that again.
There's ideas. So ask your family, ask your parents, ask if they've got equity in their home enough where they could pull it out. Maybe take an advance off of a home equity line, for example, and then show that they have the cash to pay for the house. Your house. But it doesn't mean you go that route. You still get your own financing.
Okay.
You need to let the seller know. You need to be transparent about what you're doing, right?
Sure. Right.
Or there could be a parent that has a significant amount of money in investments, and they can show that they can pull it out. Here's my cash. Here's my proof of funds.
Okay.
But my son or daughter is going to get financing. You, seller, just need to know that you're going to get your money on closing day. If I have to step in and pay cash, I'll do that. If
Okay.
anything goes wrong with financing.
Wow, that is priceless. I'm hoping that 10 people heard that today. I mean, that is huge. It really is huge.
But you
What a
just
great
gotta think
idea.
through strategies, right?
I know, but
yeah. It's not impossible.
No.
You just need to talk through these things, and you don't think about these things necessarily.
Right.
So all we can do is share possibilities
Sure,
for you to check
exactly.
into.
I mean, our sharing of possibility is now has listing agents in their contracts, in their listing contracts, saying no sight unseen, which I think is a joke, and I think is a disservice and
I
malpractice.
don't think that's right, unless there's something about
You don't
it
think
I'm
it's
missing.
malpractice?
No, I don't think
Oh.
it's right that they're doing that.
Yeah.
As long as the buyer knows, and they have to have time to get in and view the property, right? Like they
Mhm.
have to.
Right,
So all that's written into the contract. What do you care?
right.
Communicate it to the seller.
Exactly.
and- I don't know.
So, should I touch on this real quick about this? About my thought about sight unseen?
Sure.
So here's what I'm talking about. Sight unseen means there's a property that's going to be coming out of the market. It's in delayed status. It's ready and it's there, but they're maybe taking pictures or staging or doing something for it, right? Sight unseen is where you go in, you write an offer, you put your amount in there that you're going to offer, and then one of the contingencies states that a visual inspection required within 24 approval, visual approval within 24 hours of acceptance, which would be the next day. And you could do it for shorter if you wanted, but usually 24 hours is fine on that. So then you go in there and you look at the house. If you like it, you're done. You've just bought a house. Why that I see that as an advantage to the seller is this, is because there's so much stress associated with selling a home. Let's get real. There's stress with it, period, okay? Part of the stress for me, and I know others, is a lot of people coming through my house to look at the house.
And a lot these days.
I mean, a lot. You've heard us talk about Ann Baranski's property had 77 showings. If you take 3 people per showing on that, that's 221 people coming through, right? Did I do my math right?
Well, close enough.
23,
That's a lot of people
231.
coming through your house.
And so that's a lot of people
A lot
coming
of
through your
strangers.
house.
It's not even
Well,
like a graduation party.
No.
Like you don't know these people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I can get the number that I'm comfortable with without anybody else coming in, take the offer. If I get an offer sight unseen, I don't like the number, continue on with the process.
Yeah.
What's it hurt?
Well, that's what I was thinking. So why do they go as far as putting it in the comments? Why can't they just say, no, we're not interested in entertaining those types of offers, and then next?
Well,
Why?
well, they're disclosing it to the agent, saying that. So I think.
Bother.
Huh?
They're saying don't bother, basically.
Right, don't
just
bother.
Like, don't bother with love letters.
Yeah,
and-
don't bother
yeah.
with love letters. That's
Okay.
right. But so the
Alright.
thing is that I think they're doing a disservice to the seller. And if you're a seller out there, wait for those sight unseen. If you think you're going to get $30,000 over on, and if you think you're going to get $30,000 over the asking price that's been set, and it shows up on your front door, and you can end this process and starting to get packed to get ready to move to your new place, then do it. Don't let an overzealous agent tell you, oh God, you should wait till Monday and see what happens then. And then guess what? 200 people have come through your house, and on Monday, you take the offer that's $30,000 over the price. And you were gone the whole weekend. And
Spending money somewhere else,
Right.
like a staycation, which is nice,
Right.
but still, like you're,
Right.
yeah.
And I would also say that agents should pay, if they're going to kick the family out of the house for the weekend, they should pay for that.
Yeah, we talked about that. I said I'd take a trip to Hawaii, but I changed my mind. I'll take a trip to Italy.
I was
Since
gonna
you're
say,
paying.
yeah, that was Italy. I was gonna say, man,
Yeah.
wow. But yeah, so there you got it. That's my 2 cents on it, and I'll get arrows in my back from that, just like I do everything else. But that's okay.
You're used to it.
I know.
Can I say something about new construction?
Sure.
So this might be not might, this should be another show,
Okay.
honestly. Because there's a lot of people that are looking at new construction now because they can't get an accepted offer, right? So there's a lot of builders out there that will build turnkey, which means that they build it, you just buy it like you would any other home, but it's brand new.
Mhm.
So that's a definite option. You want to work with your realtor still and go in with your realtor to talk with the representative from whatever builder it is.
Who's doing turnkey?
Well, Viridian does
Viridian.
turnkey. William Ryan does
They
turnkey.
do? I thought they were doing on
Ryan.
demand.
No.
Because they can't keep up.
Well, that's the thing. So one of them, and I'm not going to call them out, but I'm a little frustrated for my buyer. So this young guy that I told you has bought 4, he's on his 4th home. They found the perfect lot, and it happens to be with this particular builder. And then a lot of builders will have a list of preferred lenders. Like we're a preferred
Sure.
lender for Viridian, let's just say.
Yeah.
I get that, that's fine. Preferred lender means different things to different builders. So in this case, they found the perfect lot that fit their needs. Water on one side, no neighbor, like they fell in love with it. This is perfect for us.
Right.
And this builder happens to own it.
Uh-huh.
So then they have to go through their process, pick out a floor plan, all
Uh-huh.
that. Well, so the builder, to encourage urgency, evidently was like, well, if you're one of the next 3 to sign a contract, we'll give you a bonus room that's worth $35,000.
Wow.
So they're like, oh, well, cool. Like, we're planning on it anyway because this is the lot. We love it.
Sure.
Then they go to meet with the builder and they're like, well, I know you have your lender that you prefer, but they're not on our approved list. So if you decide to go with a lender that's not on our approved list, you don't get the bonus room. And they're like, well, wait a minute.
That's extortion.
That's coercive, is it not?
Yeah, that was extortion.
I know. So there's just a couple examples I've come across. Don't feel like you're pushed into doing anything. You should never be pushed into doing things, especially if it goes against what your gut
Yeah.
is telling you. It's a huge purchase.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I thought was, I've not had a great experience with how this particular builder does things. They are always off track.
Okay.
They do not communicate.
Okay.
They will not pay any of the buyer's fees.
What?
They don't. I mean, sorry, the buyer pays all of their fees.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that's what you were saying.
Yes, so they don't, normally the seller has their own fees in the transaction, not with this builder. The buyer has to pay all their stuff.
Okay.
They are 12 months out, so most builders, I would say, are at least 6, maybe 9.
Sure.
12 seems a little much, but even that, my guess is that they would be off track. Then, when they're going out to look at the floor plan of the house that they think they're going to put on this lot, the neighbor next door runs out and says, run, don't work with this builder. Things go wrong, you can't get them to come out and look at stuff
Oh my
within
gosh.
the warranty period.
Not good.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, just kind of buyer beware stuff.
Sure.
Don't feel pushed into anything. Find out, get some testimonials. How do you think it went after the build? Has anything gone wrong? Ask.
Yeah.
If you're working with a smaller builder, because a lot of those have broken away, I've noticed,
Uh-huh.
and decided to go out on their own because they can, and they can get business, right? Well, one person that I'm working with found out that the labor costs were so exorbitant that it made it unaffordable for him.
Oh my gosh.
To the tune of probably 40 grand more in labor costs than it should have been. So I was like, are you sure about these labor costs?
Yeah, really.
I get everything's going up, but this is a little
Uh-huh.
high.
Okay.
So anyway, did some checking around and went with a builder that's very reputable, been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they're like, yeah, you're being, basically what was
Couch.
happening, yes, is the builder was new and didn't have their reserve, so they're using this guy to pad their labor costs
Sure.
to fund other projects.
Yeah.
Buyer beware.
Buyer.
Ask questions,
Definitely.
please.
Buyer
and do
beware.
some comparing.
Buyer
There's
beware.
nothing wrong with that.
Call us, ask us.
Please.
Yes, ask us.
Yeah.
We can do that. Great points, and thanks for bringing that up, because that is so true. I mean, it's just so true. People are doing new construction. I'll tell you right now, I know somebody that here in Sun Prairie, talked to them last week. They have a house up near Germantown. They want to sell it. Some things have happened. They have to sell it. The developer has to sell it. If not, you have to pay them 1.5% of the commission.
Do they not know? Does
Yeah,
it fine print stuff?
Oh, it's in there, but they didn't think anything of it. And they've already had it on the market. It hasn't sold, and so you've got a little, hometown little developer up there that's doing this, and they can't sell it. So now they're stuck. And I said, I'm not sure that's a legal contract, but I said, I'm not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV, but or radio. But
Ask, though.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would love to get on the radio is an appraiser that I know, Bob Call,
Yeah.
or as I say, Bobby Call, that I work out with every Tuesday and Thursday. He's got some strong opinions about market value and all this. And we were
What
talking
about Craig? Craig is joining him, right? Maybe not. Anyway, see if Bob.
and so it was. I don't know. We'll get him on. I'm trying to get him. He's got microphone phobia.
Really?
Fear of the microphone. Yes, I know. Great guy. He's
Then
an
have him
absolute
come in
great dude.
online. I mean,
I know,
over
right?
the phone.
Hey, Bob, you're listening. Okay. He says
It's harder
I'm
for
listening.
you because you have to go back and forth.
Sorry, Bob. Hey, I just complimented you, muscle dude. Come on.
Muscle dude.
Hey, real quick here, I want to talk about this. If you're going to do an offer on here, you really got to have some strengths on that offer. And if you can do cash, as Laura said, let's do that. We got to get that in there.
You can still get financing.
You still can. We've got about 5 minutes left in the show, 4 minutes. Limit the contingencies that you're putting in there. I mean, what I mean by that is, you got to think outside of the box on that. But I mean, do you want to waive an inspection contingency? I'm not fond of that because I want to know what's going on in there. But go in, look around. Maybe take your dad that happens to be the contractor with you on the showing, and let him look around.
You know, I'm going to check into that. I saw something.
You know your dad, the contractor. I don't care.
Just be careful.
Yeah, I know. In the appraisal, in the way of the appraisal, be careful what you do there too, because you could. It just depends on the appraiser. And Bob's listening right now. He'll tell you too. Just like real estate agents, just like doctors, lawyers, there's good ones and not good ones. And so you've got to be careful. Listen to your agent. Work within the guidelines that you have and the comfort level that you have to cover any offsets.
There's wording
on
in
this.
the contract that can be put in there that you might cover X amount. So,
Right.
Again, ask questions.
Maybe here's one that's outside of the box. Maybe consider paying the seller's closing costs.
Yeah.
Maybe consider
Tax proration.
paying the buyer's commission.
Huh? Oh.
Allow the seller to stay in the property if there's a delay because of school or whatever. I got to tell you, first of all, your real estate agent actually has to pick up the frickin' phone and call the other agent to ask them about it. They'll have no idea, and that doesn't happen. Be creative with your contingencies. Again, I mean, the whole thing about inspections, you could say that I want to inspect the home, but I will not provide an amendment or notice of defect, which means you just want to know what's going on, but you don't want anything fixed. Or you could say, I want you to fix up to $5,000, something like that. Or you could say on the appraisal, the same thing. I'll pay up to $5,000 of an appraisal that's short, or a dollar amount. Mm-hmm. Just do it. But more importantly, here's what Laura and I want to say to you, and I'm talking for her. Only do what you're comfortable with, and work with the experts that you can trust and that have a proven knowledge of getting things done. Mm-hmm. And better yet, the ones that have your back instead of the transaction. That have your back.
Relationship, not transaction.
Right, exactly. I mean, and I'm, you know what I mean out there? It's all about you. It's not about them. It's not about how many houses you sell. I don't care if you sell 300 houses or 10 houses a year. It's about you. And they need to be protecting you and what's going on in your world out there. So, Prairie, thanks for listening. I appreciate this. Bob Call, you're on here watching. I hope you'll come on. We'd love to have you in here. You'll be a huge addition to this conversation.
It's not hard, and we'll make it easy.
Microphone phobia. But no, Sun Prairie, we really appreciate you being here, being a part of this. If we could ever answer any questions, contact us. Reach out to us. Facebook, the telephone, Buck and Honeys, Prairie Athletic Club, wherever. We're here for you, and we can give you answers to your questions. So until next Wednesday, Sun Prairie, stay strong, keep the faith. You will get your offers approved, and we're here to help you any way we can. Yep. See you then. Bye, Sun Prairie.
Bye, Sun Prairie.
We're still on Facebook.
Studio 2, everybody.
See.
Bravo.
Not the yet.
Not the yet?
You're on the Facebook Live right now. He's in my parking spot.
Who is?
No, he's not.
That is not yours.
Some days it is.
No.
All right, we are on Studio 2.
Thank you. You know why I came in?
Don't you tell me it didn't record.
I'm sorry.
It didn't?
So, what I don't understand, so I can't see, like, if there are any special characters, because your file name, this is obviously not what you did. This is